Good morning. This is another episode of the Unpublic with Citizen Stewart. Today I have two illustrious guests. Joining me, I have two of the three woke aunties from the Three Woke Aunties podcast. We got Mama Toya and Elaine Wells. Auntie Elaine and Auntie Toya from the Aunties. Welcome to the Unpublic.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I'm excited. Y'all give me something. You give me life. When I think about it, more people who are fearless entering the debate and entering without the shy, meek, I'm afraid I can't say this or that about our situations with our kids or whatnot. I love it when people are just out there. No. We woke, we dope. Across our Eight Black Hands network, we're starting to see that there's way more people than we ever thought that are ready for that level of conversation. So listen, I wanted to talk to you all this morning about the thing that I always talk about, but we can chop it up any way that you want to. I would love to just hear from you, the stories, the experiences, the things that you see families that are impacting families and including your own that needs to be said, needs to be heard. We were talking a little bit before we came on this morning about some of them, but first of all, again, good morning and welcome.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm digging your hat, Mama Toya. Your hat is working
right?
it.
Let me tell you something. I'm coming back with my hat. So in the future, when you see me, I'm going to be wearing a hat.
Well, I got to do a hat this morning too. Education is a civil right. I get all these hats sent to me from people when I do panels and stuff. So it's good. I cover up my bald head.
That's an awesome hat to have, though. I like that message. I said that's an awesome hat to have.
I love the message on it. Have you all heard me challenge the thing about civil rights, education being a civil right?
Yeah, we've been on we've listened to many of your podcasts. Yes.
Yeah, I actually always say that it isn't a civil right because I think the civil rights frame for education advocacy is off. Like I feel like abolitionists were the better frame. Like, civil rights people feel like the system is good, but just needs to be made better with some laws and stuff. The abolitionists were like, nah, this system is not good.
And not built for us. Right?
It's not built for us. Yeah. Maybe we just abolish this because sometimes, school reform is like slavery reform. Nobody ever talked about slavery reform. It was now we should probably just not have slavery. Just get rid of
it. Right?
Yeah. So what's burning on y'all mind right now? Tell me within the last month, what is a story or something that you have seen in the news or in your community or in your families that set you back and made you think one more example of how our kids aren't fully valued?
I'll start. I'm gonna go with teachers returning to school, right? And the thing for me is I'm a grandmother. And as I was telling you earlier, Chris, I have a mother who is 91, a sister who is 77, a brother who will be 75, and I have grandkids. And often enough, like tonight, my grandkids are coming. So if my grandkids are in school and they don't have the right PPE where they might be exposed, we could die.
What's PPE?
The
personal protective equipment.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So in Philadelphia, they were showing how they wanted teachers to go back to school in poor conditions. And the poor conditions were before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Like asbestos, mold, infestations, all that kind of stuff. And now they want them to go back to school in the midst of this. So that's not right, Chris. It's just not right.
Mm-hmm. And you really feel like the conditions that they're being asked, the teachers and students and families are being asked to go back into are really unsafe. Like the district.
Did you not see the things they bought from the dollar store and Dollar General that they want to put in the windows?
Right, it's two-way window fans. Like one blows in and one blows out. The things you use in kitchens, like back in the day, you would put those in to kind of get the cooking smell out your house when you cook in the kitchen. That's what they look like, and that was the ventilation system.
Right, imagine sitting there and. All right, so the virus is gonna blow by my kid and go out the window. What? Come on!
But not only that, that's stirring up all the asbestos and the mold that are in these buildings. This is Philadelphia we're talking about. Like the public schools, the district public school buildings are probably 100 years old, easy, and they were not taken care of. And our kids were learning in these conditions before the pandemic. Right. They had to close a couple of schools, move some students to other buildings, and we're supposed to be remediating the conditions so that kids can come back to a safe building. That never happened. It might have happened in one or two schools. And then there was a movement to remediate all of the school buildings. And this is pre-pandemic. And then the pandemic happened and nobody's in the school for a whole year now. So what better time than to get these buildings up to par, right? Do you think that happened? That did not happen. And now you want teachers and students to come back in the buildings because you're getting pressured that there are only 33% of third graders. So this article came out, only 33% of third graders in the Philadelphia school district are on reading level.
So, so 33% nationally for Black students, to be very honest with you, is high. Before the pandemic, if you look at NAEP for the last God knows how many years, a good state, a state where, Black children are doing okay, is about 25% reading proficiency. So Philly has got 33% now, and that's becoming the push to put kids back in school, is to say like they're falling behind.
So
do you believe that? Do you get the sense that kids are falling behind?
Beyond, of course they're falling behind, but the thing is they've been behind. Our kids have been behind. Before the pandemic ever happened, our kids were not on level for anything across the board. So, you to save face, you're trying to put the blame on teachers not wanting to be back in the building, and our kids are failing now only because they've been forced to do this virtual learning. But in all honesty, our kids were falling behind and failing before the pandemic and this virtual learning.
Do you feel like there's something to the critique though of teachers that they just don't want to go back?
I make it a point to you can't blame any human person for the pandemic and the conditions that were created. Like I can't blame a teacher who is a human being, who may be a mother, who may be a caregiver, who may have underlying conditions themselves, for not wanting to put themselves at risk to go into a physical building that has not been fully cleaned and fully prepared for me to be there and to teach safely. I would not blame a parent saying my child is not going back in that building. I would not blame a parent for saying, a parent that has to work during this pandemic, for saying, I need for my child to have somewhere to go because I can't work as long as they're home. There's plenty of disadvantages to this, but I can't blame any of those three. I can't blame the teachers. I can't blame the parents. What I can blame is a district who's getting money. What is it? The pandemic money, pandemic funding, to make these spaces safe, to upgrade the buildings, to provide support to teachers who want to come into the schools to teach, and families who want their kids to come, and that not be done. So yeah, there's blame, but not certainly not on teachers, and certainly not teachers who want to stay safe, and not on parents who want their kids to stay safe.
I mean, it seems like it's a bad situation all the way around, because you have many parents who being able to put their kids somewhere every day is a way to earn a living, right?
Right.
Like you have to be able to drive your kid somewhere or drop your kid off somewhere in the morning so that you can go and
handle your
work.
business so you can have a place to stay and some food to eat. And that's another thing. Toya, Renee and I are talking about possibly doing a show about not like stop bashing Black families, right? Because you don't know everything that needs to happen for me to have a space for my kids to be safe and fed and warm, right? It's not that I'm not having them log on. Like people try and keep putting the blame on parents for not having their kids log in every day. But if I'm a single parent and I'm working 2 jobs, guess what? I'm not there when they're supposed to log in, right? And I can come home and I can threaten and I can beat, but if they don't log in, they don't log in. I can't be there. So, I'm more worried about
go outside and get the switch, and pick a big one because no, I'm just kidding.
but that's the reality. That's the reality sometimes. We don't know everybody's story, and we don't know, you can't just group all Black parents or all parents of color into one lump sum saying they don't care because they can't get their kids to log on every day.
Yeah, and Zakia, our national director of advocacy or activism at Brightbeam, I think raised alarm a long time ago about the fact that with virtual learning, you might get to the point where you start seeing more kind of a surveillance type of behavior, like suspensions because you didn't log in, or suspensions because you didn't turn your camera on, or suspensions because of just name it, because we're now virtual. Just doesn't mean, go ahead.
Not just suspensions for kids, but truancy for parents. Like parents are getting truancy letters and the threat of truancy court. Because their kid is not in attendance every day.
Do you ever get like a hard streak though with parents? I know I do. So I'm not gonna ask the question like I'm asking a question out of left field. I do believe that we should always be doing all that we can, and I love the compassion for what parents are going through. At the same time, like over soft compassion and over compassion sometimes for people not standing up and doing what they should be doing all the time doesn't feel I mean, like, I hate to go there because I know it like gets into this weird territory, but it's almost like you're supposed to be a warrior for your children. I don't like regardless. I don't like my parents, my grandparents, my great grandparents, your great grandparents, your great great grandparents, whatnot, went through some things, right?
Right.
And they didn't go through what we're going through right now, because what we're going through right now would have been candy for them. It would have been and I only know that because the old folks in my family did a lot to tell us what they went through. Over and over and over again, right? Like I heard all the stories, and I was like, I don't ever want to go back to your time, right? Right.
But at the same time, Chris, we've been going through years and years of being brainwashed. First of all, the education system wasn't built for us, right? And then if you go pre-segregation, we had our own teachers, and at that time, what did we do? We taught our children to teach others. Right. And it was more of a humanistic teaching that we received as Black folks. And we were taught to take care of our own as well. So with segregation, we kind of like lost some of our culture. So of course our grandparents knew that, and Chris, do me a favor. I need to see your faces. Okay. I just can't be on the screen by myself. Okay, so put us back on, please.
You're the star right now.
I'm having a conversation with myself. That just drives me crazy. But anyway, so what I'm saying is, it's not, you can't compare the two, because my mom, who never graduated from school, always like pushed me to graduate, right? And that's what she did. The other thing is this, and in my journey, I'm trying to figure this out, right? Back then we could trust teachers. We could trust what we were getting. You understand? We were able to leave our children to the teachers teaching. Now we got to be like, hold on, what did you teach? What are you doing? What part of history are you teaching? Where's the fact of, our brilliance? Where's that at? Things have changed since our grandparents. So you can't, and if we bring it to today, what did we lose, say, in the 80s with the crack epidemic? What did we lose? You understand what I'm saying? And for me to be 58, I feel like my mom, and enough you can hear me preaching to parents, and I try my best not to preach to parents, and I try to meet them where they are. But I'm like, yeah, that starts at home first. That obedience, all that starts at home first. The first teacher, you know what I mean, is your house. Is your house conducive to a child learning in it?
And remember too, Chris, the quality of education since then has gotten a lot worse, right? So there's two sides to every story, and for me, neither side is wrong. And you're absolutely right. There's a population of parents out there who are just like, whatever, I'm not going to, it's not my job. But we send our kids to school for the teachers to do a job. Their job is to teach my kid. My job is to provide a home for the kid, and I'm just not going to do their job.
That's where our voice
the decline of quality of education is where we have been forced to step up and do that extra thing to make sure that our kids are getting a quality education. And every parent is not going to be equipped to do that. That's where the 3 woke aunties and the Chris Stewarts and, the Sharif El Mekkis, that's where we all come into the picture, where we try and create a pathway for our kids to, 1, get a quality education, 2, to educate and support parents in helping that along, because right now, for a lot of us, that doesn't exist. And sometimes parents don't know how to.
Parents don't know what they don't know. I mean, Chris, let me tell you something. Parents don't know what they don't know, because Elaine and I are in the middle of organizing parents. They don't know. Self-care is more important. Human care is so important. Taking care of yourself so you can take care of the other children, or for instance, let me give you a good, for instance, my daughter, right? She's like, Mom, she came to me one morning. She's like, Mom, I just got Zoe's in 1st grade, right? I just got Zoe's progress report. I'm like, oh, fantastic. She's doing good in this. She's doing good in that. She engages in the classroom. She's not this. I was like, literacy. She's like, oh yeah, she's on an every level. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Excuse me. What the hell does that mean? Mom, why are you always going down? Why aren't you happy? Why are you the militant? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, hold on, sis. What does it mean? It means my daughter says it means she's on reading grade level. And I was like, is the school? On reading grade level? What's that mean in the big world? You need to ask these questions. And now she's like, wow, now I'm into being my mother all over again. But yeah, you got to ask these questions. And you would think that my daughter would know that because I'm her mother, but she didn't know what she doesn't know. So back to what Elaine was saying, and Renee, what we're trying to do is educate our parents.
Okay, so I get they don't know what they don't know, and that the times have changed. Let's talk about how the times have changed, maybe in some ways, because I don't think we ever get deep enough on this conversation about, are we doing, did we wake up this morning and do everything possible for our kids we possibly could do, knowing that the world is racist and the world is structured against us? If I tell you it's raining outside and you go walking outside naked and you talk about you got wet and everybody else is dry, I'm gonna be like, I told you it was raining outside. So you went outside naked. Yeah, but I don't understand about clothes. Okay, but you're wet.
So you learned a lesson.
You learned a lesson. I don't know what else to tell you except for all them people over there are dry, and their clothes are dry, and their hair is dry, and they're getting to where they want to go. All these people over here are wet, and I'm telling you, there's an umbrella somewhere in here for you. But you're telling me, yeah, but I don't know how to use an umbrella. Okay, but
They
this
might
is
not.
huh?
So when they come back in and they ask the question about why their group over there is dry and all of us over here are wet, and you tell me about an umbrella, that's a lesson that I learned. So now I'm equipped with that knowledge to move forward, but like Toya expressed, there are a lot of parents. When I started this journey 20 years ago, being forced to advocate for my child, not even knowing at that time that that's what it was. I just knew that what they designed for my kid was not what I wanted for my kid. But there were like devastating consequences to me being complacent about placing my child in the school that they said he needed to go to. And it was just like a fight from then till, probably 12 years later. I mean, no, not 12, 8 years later. But, being not having the knowledge about what my rights are as a parent, having to go through things like my literal going out in the rain naked and getting wet, taught me that, there's a different way to do this. And the only way I learned that was to go through the way that I did. So what Toya, Renee, and I are trying to do is to prevent other parents. And there's no judgment if you don't know how to navigate getting your child a quality education. There's no shame in that because there's no school for that. The school district is certainly not teaching you that. And then you have parents whose only pathway to a better education for their child is money. Right. And a lot of us don't have that. We don't have the money to send our kids to private school where they're going to get a quality education, or because they've been stuck in these underperforming school districts for so long, they can't test into a special admit school and get a better education. So it was really trial by error. And the effects of that on a parent just trying to do better for something that should be a right for every child can be devastating. And sometimes it can be overwhelming. And, like I said, I don't blame. There's two sides to every story. There are parents out there that are just not interested in all of the work that has to go into them getting their child getting a quality education. And there are some parents that feel like, well, this is the education everybody in the neighborhood is getting, it's what my kid is going to get. Yeah. It's been normalized.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I'm going to keep pushing on the same thing because you're my trial. You're my jury here on these ideas that we're talking about. I'm only sitting here talking to you today because I was a parent that had that experience that you just mentioned. You're sitting here today saying I had this experience. I knew the thing wasn't right. I knew that there was something, whatever. I fought it a little bit or I changed my behavior. I did what I could. I didn't know everything. So I had to learn along the way. Right. Like that was my situation was I would be faced with something that I totally didn't understand. I started asking a whole bunch of people about it who I thought knew something. And then they would tell me and then I would feel like I knew something. And then at some point I felt like this isn't just about me anymore. This is also about like, yeah, I got my kid to safety, but look at all his friends. Like, look at all of the friends around him. We need to share some information with each other. So that gets us here. So how about the idea that we can't blame the system. We can't blame the schools. We can't blame the teachers. And we can't blame the parents who don't know yet if we're not doing our role as activists to help the parents, to walk alongside the parents. Because one of the things that I know that changed for sure, I saw in my own lifetime. I'll just use my own story. I'm not going to say about anybody else's. Between my grandmother's generation and my father's generation, we went from collaborative thinking and collectivism where neighborhoods might be poor, but everybody shared what they had with each other.
Exactly.
Right. To apartment generations. My dad was the apartment generation. I remember moving to an apartment and thinking, we don't know nobody here. Right. And there wasn't as much of a knock on the door to say, can I borrow a cup of sugar? Can I borrow, some chicken broth? Can I borrow whatever? So maybe it's not because the system's going to do what the system's going to do. Like it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's operating. It's a well-tuned machine.
For us.
Yeah, it's doing what it's. So blaming it would be like, yeah, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing, And blaming our parents who don't know yet would be like, okay, how are they supposed to know what they don't know? I didn't, and you didn't. So maybe it's on us. What do you think that maybe it's if we see failure, academic failure in our communities, is that we have not done enough to rally behind our own parents and folks and support them?
That was a lot.
I know it's a lot.
Yeah, break that down, Chris. Break that down.
Well, like, it's just basically as simple as I can say it is. We know it's raining. We know people are going to get wet. Are we going to hand out umbrellas, or are we going to blame the rain?
Yeah. So
I think solutions. That's what we're going to do. We're going to bring solutions.
And the way that we
it might
do
be
that,
as little as taking one person at a time. Okay, so I mean,
one umbrella at a time. Here's
one
your umbrella
at a time. I mean,
yeah.
what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I mean, each one teach one. Each one teach one. So once you equip a parent with the knowledge and support, you give that expectation that you're going to share this with somebody else because it helped you. It helped me. It helped you. We need to continue that pattern. But another thing is, we parents have been brainwashed into thinking that their voices don't matter and that their opinions about how their children are educated does not matter. We should be taking steps to not only sit on school boards, but to sit on the Board of Education and also start being in rooms where policies about education are made, right? And that's a path that not enough of us are even aware of. A lot of us are not even aware that you can serve on your school's board. And if you can't get on the board, go to the meetings, right? Go to the school board meetings. Express your concern.
Now you know you're speaking my language now.
And set some expectations.
Right. So everybody listening and watching right now, Renee, Teresina, Visha, y'all all need to run for your school boards. And we're gonna rally behind you.
School board.
What's that?
Me, Renee, and Elaine are all on school boards.
Yep. And I've been on 2 school boards and feel like my joke was everybody should have to do it once, right? Because what you don't know about schools, you'll figure out real quick if you're ever on a board. You will learn. Yeah, you'll learn the business of it. And then it makes you dangerous. Like what you learn, I think in some ways makes you dangerous. So everybody watching, Renee, I see you run for school board. Visha, there's no reason, Visha, y'all know Visha Hawkins. There's no reason that Visha should not be sitting on a school board somewhere. I know you love to support others. This other thing too is, okay, maybe not everybody wants that type of smoke in their life, like to be on a school board, but somebody who's running for school board, then you can help them. I know one of the first things you need when you run for school board is a campaign manager and people around you to help support you to win. So that was okay. So, I see you, Auntie Elaine, coming with the real. That's a real concrete thing that we could do. I also like the each one teach one. If I'm gonna help you, my expectation is once you're in an empowered situation, once you've figured it out, you help somebody else. And then that way we have a chain of help. Like, and
also, can I just say really quickly, something you spoke about is the apartment mentality, like where the difference between your grandparents' generation and your father's generation, where grandparents are used to sharing things and resources and that cup of sugar or, cup of milk or whatever. We have gotten to be so single-minded about, I'm just going to take care of my kid and not sharing resources. That is a big thing for me in this, because my kids were stuck in underperforming schools for so long. I felt like I was forced to find supplemental education for them. And some of the resources that I found were totally free. Like I was just like a Google addict. I researched for supplemental education, supplemental programs for my kid. And these were at like University of Penn, Drexel, Rutgers University. There was a STEM program all the way in Westchester, Pennsylvania, which was an hour both ways for us for a 2-hour program. But I made sure, and sometimes my kids were the only 2 Black kids in the program. And, it was just a matter of if I hadn't researched it, I would have never known they existed. So it's a matter of making sure that you share the resources that you find for your own family or your own kid. We have for whatever reason gotten away from that, and it's sometimes in desperation, you're only concerned about your kid and what you can get for your kid, and the places that you can opportunities that you can make available for your kid. But there's a lot more of us out there that can use that information, and these programs need to be diversified, and sometimes it's in those spaces that our kids find their brilliance or find their passion. So I think that's another thing, that while we're sharing resources to get a quality education, we also need to be sharing resources to supplement that, and to just make sure that opportunities are available for other kids as well.
I mean, I think that's such a huge point, just in that in every city, there are free opportunities that you have to hunt for. Like free things through your libraries, your museums, your city itself. I know Philadelphia. I bet you if I landed in Philadelphia and spent 10 minutes, I could smell out a whole bunch of free opportunities, because you have a world-class city in some ways. Like, you have world-class things there, like universities and other things. But how does that information get out? I know someone pings me like several times a week. Someone will send me something saying, can you get the word out about this program that we have, or this opportunity? And you start to see that some of their biggest problem is how to find people, how to get affected communities information. And part of that is maybe the old systems that we used to do it with aren't really, I mean, I don't know how to put it, but like churches and other places where you normally would have went aren't necessarily the centers of gravity that they used to be.
I don't know about that. I know my church is out there. I mean, they have learning pods. They're getting the information out. They have testing, COVID testing. They have scholarships to go to college. They also have tutoring. I think that might depend on the church. But the other thing I think that people need to know, or parents need to know, it's beyond the bake sale. So it's okay to sell the pretzels, bake some pies, bake some cakes. But what you really need to do is develop a partnership inside your school. You need to develop a partnership with your teacher. You need to, regardless if you like the teacher or you don't, you need to be in the teacher's face. So often you hear me say, buy some apples and take them up to the school. and be in the teacher's face. Because, for instance, it's like when I was going through a divorce, right? And my kids, they were going through too. I didn't want my business out there, but guess what? My children are acting a certain way. They needed to know that. So I often enough partner with my students, my kids' teachers at all times. And it's definitely beyond because listen, in the morning when you take your child to school, you talk to other parents, and you're hearing things. And parents need to know they have power, that they could probably go into a school and do what they need to do, or get things changed if change is needed.
What do you think about, though, the parents that find that to be
difficult?
I mean, like there's a sense of, I don't know what it is. There's just a sense of like, they're the authority and I'm not. And there's almost a sense of, I just would rather not interact with them.
That's a brainwash. We've been brainwashed to believe that they are the experts on everything, because we drop our kids at their doors for 8 hours and then we go home. But you can't mold and shape a person that you don't know anything about. So parents need to understand that these teachers, these people who are being paid to give your child a lesson, really don't know anything about your child. And I think that is a responsibility on every parent to make sure that the teacher understands a little something about your child. And before school starts, like most schools, sends out your child's roster, who their teacher's going to be, the teacher's contact information and whatnot. And I made it a habit of emailing each and every teacher all of my contact information, my email address, my telephone number, my home phone, my cell phone, my work phone. I'm available between this time and this time. And I give a little explanation, a little bit of an explanation about my child, what their learning style is. When when my kids started out, they had no public speaking knowledge whatsoever. They're very shy. You know, you may need to coax them a little bit. And the teacher can take the advice or leave it, but you can never say that I didn't tell you. So when I come up or you call me about my child not participating in class one day, and I'm telling you, well, I told you that they're kind of shy, and it might not be that they're not participating. They're just not used to these people. Give them a chance to warm up. You know, it's the little things. And like Toya said, you really should, if you're able, build a partnership with the teachers. We've been so often made to believe that it's a us versus them, that it's parents versus teachers. You know, and I used to brag about early on in my advocacy. I used to brag about how, they would get an attitude and be like, oh, here she comes, you know, when I walk in the building. Yeah, because I'm here to, you know, raise the roof and I'm going to start some trouble. And that didn't really work well for my kids. You know what I mean? And they felt like targeted, like, Mom, you came up here starting trouble and now, you know, the teacher's on me or whatever. And I like I said, it was a hard lesson to learn. But when they got into high school, when my oldest son got into high school and my younger ones got into middle school, I literally partnered with these teachers who were also going through some things. You know what I mean? Like, how can I support you as a parent? Like, what do you need to know about my kid? If my kid is creating, you know, making you have a bad day, what is it that I can do to help you either manage your classroom, make things a little easier for you? And when I tell you, I have never been in a position, my kids have been to plenty of schools, plenty of schools, because I just wasn't satisfied. But in the last school that they ended up in, which was a charter school, shout out to Boys Latin, I literally had built relationships with not just the teachers, but the administration of the school. And there were days when I come in and I hugged my son's teachers. They knew enough about my kids and cared enough about my kids that we built a relationship. We call it the trifecta. It's the parents, the teachers, and the student. And we all just wrapped around each other in support to make sure that these kids had what they needed.
So do you think do you think that that's either one of you, do you think that that's one of the main problems just in general at other schools with other parents, with us, that we're not doing enough to be in partnership with, to be our three-legged stool, right? The parents, the teachers, students.
At KIP, we actually, it's the three-legged stool, like you said. And at KIP, we had to sign a contract saying that everybody was going to be responsible for the child's, you know, education, which is fantastic. And to be honest with you, Chris, it's so much to unpack there, because I'm thinking about everything we're talking about. I'm thinking about when my oldest kids were in school, we thought about the bake sale, right? And we were there, but then we start seeing like the school go downhill. The grades were like up and down. The teachers start turning around, and us parents, it was a leadership parents. So maybe it was like 5 of us, right, who were there constantly. We got the word out to the other parents and realized that this school was slowly but surely going downhill. And what we did was we found all kind of supports for our children. And not like the parents took over the school, but the school is now closed. Okay. And thank goodness, because they were like pushing our kids out. And I think that the thing is, I don't want to bash parents like Elaine said, because like she said early in her career, early in my career as an activist, I was bashing parents for not showing up to school. And I had one little girl come to me and say, you don't understand. The reason why my parents weren't up to school is because they were out collecting cans to recycle. They couldn't make it. You know, so what I feel as though like parents who can't get there, just to find another parent in the school that could do the work for you, or that can, first of all, we want a lot of them parents up there anyway, to be honest with you, not like 100 parents with 100 different views. You know, we need some key leaders, and that's always the case.
I'm just going to say this about some of y'all schools. I'm not going to name any schools by name. I'm going to say that like parents to sign contracts about supporting or whatnot. oftentimes that's a one-sided contract in my mind. That I'm not going to name no names of any individual places or schools. I'm just going to say I've visited hundreds of schools over the years, quite possibly thousands of schools over the years. And sometimes those contracts are really about you're going to do what we tell you to do to hold up your end, but it's not a two-way street really, because you just give us your child and we're going to make sure your child goes to college type of thing. And
so Chris, you know what? Let me tell you something, right?
Yeah,
Let me tell you something. It's all about that building and who's in the building and the administrator. You can sign anything, right? It's about who's in the building.
Yeah.
And I don't care if it's a big CMO or a small CMO, or if it's a public school, or if it's a charter school, or if it's a parochial school. Because the school I was talking about that went downhill was parochial. I'll go right there. I spent a hell of a lot of money to send my kids to a school. You know, I'm going to go there. I'm going there. Yep, I spent a lot of money to send my kids to a school that were failing my kids. Now, how about that? You know what I mean?
And make no mistake. In the building. Make no mistake, Chris. I'm not saying that what I experienced at my charter school is going to happen at any other charter school or district school. Like, the teacher has to be a willing participant in that. And a lot of times, unfortunately, they're not. Like you said, you can sign all the contracts you want.
Well,
and
exactly.
I'm just going to do what I'm getting paid to do. Right.
There's a lot of the teachers in a lot of the situations where, first of all, what you're saying is very good advice, period, which is be there, be in their grill, understand that you have a role to play to be there. Now, if it's good, then great, be a good parent. If it's not good, great, then be an advocate for your child, but just show up to know which one it is, to know whether or not, okay, you're a teacher that really is trying to teach my kid. If you have any struggles, I'm going to help because that it is in both of our best interests.
Right.
But if I show up and figure out that you're one of those ones who likes to talk to people sideways and likes to brush us off or whatever, now you're going to get a different parent. Like, now I'm going to be a different person, right? Because now but I guess what I'm hearing what you're saying is you don't know what you don't know, but if you're active, you're involved, you will learn some things along the way, and you'll be able to see with your own eyes some things that are going on, and then act accordingly, right? Like,
you know what, Chris? Let me tell you. Last 2 summers ago, I'll put myself out there again. 2 summers ago, at the beginning of school, I'm always in the school. I don't even have a child in the school anymore, right? So I'm going up there. I crochet in the school, and they had a PD one day with the teachers, right? And I walked in the PD, and they were all new teachers, and I was like, "Hi, I'm Mama Toya." Right? Let me tell you what these parents expect of you. Let me tell you how I need you to teach my child. Okay, this is the parents' expectations. You know, so even if the third leg of stool was a contract that's not really being signed, you're still going to hear from me, and I'm still going to hold you accountable. I'm going to hold you accountable to teach. You know what I mean? So I mean, parents have power. You just got to put yourself out there, and if you don't feel like doing it, find somebody who will. Find a parent.
And being a parent, just like, it doesn't end when your child turns 18. Neither does fighting for a quality education. I did exactly 3 years ago, I did a TED Talk called "Why the Fight Is Never Over." And it kind of highlighted my 20 plus year struggle of getting a quality education for my 3 Black boys. And not just my 3 Black boys, but Black boys in general. Like, the heartache, the frustration, the overwhelming preparation that you try and do just to get turned down by a lottery. Some of these applications, school applications or applications to other schools, the processes was like applying to college. And I dare say, sometimes applying to college, I found out applying to college was sometimes a lot easier than applying to a charter school, only to be either waitlisted or not accepted in the lottery. And then having to deal with the fact that your child is still stuck in this underperforming, underfunded school. I mean, it's just like a roller coaster And there's a constant fight. And even when your child gets accepted to a special admit school or a high performing charter school or a private school, there's a whole nother level of advocacy that you're going to have to do then, because then it's like, don't have a lesser expectation of my child because he's Black or because he's a boy, and you're just giving him mediocre work. Like, I had a conversation with a teacher. My son got a B- on something, or that was his on a progress report, and I was concerned, right? Because my child at that time was on honor roll every, like high A's, high B's, and I called the teacher to ask, well, what's going on? And like, I'm not happy with this B-, and his response was, well, he's passing. I don't know why you're upset.
Wow. Damn.
Yes. Well, he's passing. Like, he's among the very few people in my class that are passing. I don't understand why you're upset.
Wow. That's deep.
You know what, Elaine, that also goes in college, right? Yeah. I mean, and Chris, you might call me a helicopter mom. I don't care what y'all call me. That's my child, and I'm going to advocate for him wherever he is. But my son has a IEP. My son has a traumatic brain injury, so he has a disability. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So when he went to college, his person that he was supposed to go to didn't really check on him, because knowing my son and what his disabilities are, it's written down. I never forget it. And I think he failed the course. Well, of course, he failed the course. But I was like, okay, so what did you put in place for this to not happen? And how are you going to hold somebody in college, because it's up to the child? But the parents, if you sound that, what's that FERPA thing? You can actually, if you sign that FERPA paper, you can actually look at his grades and do all that. Of course, I got that done too, right? So by the time I was done, Chris, I had a conversation with my son, his psychologist from CHOP, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and this person in the disabilities department. This person in the disabilities department was so afraid that we were going to come sue them. They tried to put it all on my son. Mm. You understand? And I was like, Mayo, I'm in the conversation, and I'm like, okay, I'm about to do a Mrs. Algarin. Okay. And the psychologist was like, oh my God, here she goes. Right. I'm like, look, son, you know what? You're up in an all white area. My fault. You know what I mean? You're going to have to work hard. I had to go through this whole speech, but I went through it with the disability person. Mm-hmm. So like Elaine said, this advocacy never stops. It just never, especially if you have a child who has a disability.
You would know that it never stops if you started with that. If you started with the idea that these systems are never going to be fair, so you can never rest. Like, if you just tell yourself from the beginning, like, listen, being a Black parent means you never rest. That's let's just call like if we had 10 commandments of Black parenting, commandment number 1, it will be a struggle. Right. So that way, when you encounter struggle, you don't go, oh my God, this is a struggle. You're like, no. See, commandment number 1 is, if you are a Black parent and you're going to raise a well-adjusted, healthy Black person in a racist society where racism is like the water we drink and the air that we breathe, it is going to be a struggle. Commandment number 1. All right. Well, then now every time that happens, you're like, see, that only proves, if we're struggling, it only proves that the commandments are right. Right. And you just mentioned something to me that I think is really important, is like, I think tools are important. All the people that I've talked to who have been through the process with IEPs over their lifetime have a different experience than people who haven't, right? And there's some things that I've just picked up on over time of thinking, oh, well, in that process, you had a document and you had a process and you had to have a conversation. And that kind of, I think in some ways, could be good for everybody. Like, to have that level of like, no, I know what my kid's about. I have documented what they're about. Like, Elaine, when I think about what you say about going up and talking to the teacher, I would hope you would have something like with you so that you don't get pushed around, so that you can say, like, I know that my child is creative I know that my child is jokey and funny. I know that so that you're telling the teacher, I know my child. I'm telling you ahead of time, here's my plan for my child. And then let's work together. But not like, so that they know ahead of time, you're not going to call me with, the wrong
stuff that I already told you about. Right.
Yeah,
right. And not only told you about, but also told you ways in which it could be handled. Right. Because I also gave that instruction, like, if my child gets out of hand in this way, let them calm down in the hallway, or, let them, if they need to call me, because sometimes I'm the only thing that can calm my child. Give them a second to call me, or you take your break and you call me, and we'll go through it together. So if I'm giving you that
part, that's essential. That second part there too. Not only am I telling you ahead of time that I know these things about my child, but let me help you with some strategies. Because I'm the parent. So after grade 2, 3, 4, whatnot, as a parent, you've learned things that the next teacher will never know about your child, because you've been through 3, 4, 5 years of this, right? And that teacher's coming in fresh. They're coming in. Not only are they coming in fresh, they're coming in fresh with 30 to 40 of your kids in a classroom. In some cases, I've seen 42 kids in a classroom before. I should wonder how
so there are a couple of teachers who actually thanked me for that, because it could then use those strategies on other students with similar maybe behavioral issues, or students that that act in similar ways to the behavior my child was displaying, and they found that some of those strategies worked. I let them have a timeout. Maybe they were just a little tired. Maybe they were just, they had some extra energy. I let them, I sent them down to the office to do an errand for me. They came back, sat down, and paid attention.
How important do you think it is in that relationship? Well, I want to ask this a different way. It's hard for me. So like in my family, just to be very honest with you, I'm considered to be a little bit too harsh for daily interactions with the schools. So in my family, I'm not the one that handles the routine.
Thank God.
Back and
Thank God. I can imagine your kids now like, oh no, here comes daddy. Oh. Mom, please.
That's so messed up. That's so messed up. I'm kind of the nuclear option. But I guess I wonder about that. Like, do you worry about parents operating in one speed? Like, if I say it's going to be a struggle and you just expect a struggle, you come up here and act like it's a struggle with the teacher. But I mean, maybe that is the way you should be in the beginning, or I don't know.
I mean, if you work those issues out in the beginning of the year, I find the rest of the year goes a lot smoother. Let me just say that.
But you know what, Chris? One thing you said that was very important, and so did Elaine, is know your kids' numbers, know your kids' data, know where your kids are. So teachers can't treat them one way or the other, because you're an intelligent parent. That's key, and then when you develop parent groups, that's the other thing you mentioned, Chris, too, about where you live, is they break down those test scores so parents can understand what they actually mean. So I would advise parents to go to their school and have that knowledge with them. And if they don't know it, find out, break it down, where I'm at, explain to me what remedial means, or literacy, or the way you teach. Explain that to me. And if you can't get any help, come find Auntie Toya, because I'm gonna find help for you, because I have resources, under imaginable resources, to help you understand what your child is doing.
So I think, in wrapping the show, I think really these type of conversations are the most important of all the conversations that I'm going to have, or many of us are going to have, because there are parents that are really just listen, any little piece of information, any kind of tool, any kind of resource is the thing. They don't need necessarily the critique or the criticism of what they're not doing. What they actually do need is strategies, support, tools, and all these other things that, listen, if they were in a different socioeconomic bracket, or if they were in a different racial category, some of these things would just be considered like stock. Like you just get this, like you have certain resources, tools, something goes wrong, you call and you use a certain voice, and that certain voice gets you either what you want or to a place of understanding. That's not the experience many of our parents are having. Right. So I think the conversations you two and you three, since you three woke aunties on the Three Woke Aunties podcast are having are the actual power. That is the actual I can curse the darkness. You all can light a match, right? Like, because I'm fine cursing the darkness. I'm fine, like, being the one that's just going, and then y'all have to come clean it up with some strategies and some tools or whatnot. Because I'm here to tell you, I think the system is irredeemably racist and anti-Black, and doesn't believe in Black brilliance, doesn't believe that Black children can achieve. There are so many different ways that the research tells us that the kids are seen in ways that their creator doesn't see them. Right? There's so much research that tells us that I can't get over it. Like I can't say anything else about the system. Like, oh, it's got some good and bad parts. That feels like how you talk about the prison system. Well, the prison system ain't all bad. Well,
see, Chris, you have resources you have resources. Our folks could get caught up in despair, and I really, that's why Elaine and Renee and I came together, is to supply solutions, because else we would just, I know what it feels like to be in despair. I know what it feels like to see my son get kicked out of school, Catholic school, in 12th grade, and feel like, what the hell am I going to do now? And just not have any hope. So, but you have resources. Some of our parents don't.
Well, let me be very clear about this resource, and then I'll get to Elaine. You've heard me tell this story before. I ran an organization of all Black folks that had everything from the grandmothers raising their grandchildren because the parents were having issues in life, to a couple of Black millionaires. And what I saw across all of those strata within my same organization was they were all asking me about how to get out of school A and into school B, because they were at every level. I'm talking about people with money were having problems with, we bought a house in this suburb thinking our kids were going to get an education. Now we're moving back to the city. But when we move back to the city, they're not going to let us in this magnet school. So can you help us get this and that? And I started thinking to myself, it don't matter what level you're at, the system is still not made for your kids. And what we don't have, for instance, to be very clear, what we don't have where I live is a Boston Latin. Or I'm sorry, like David Hardy's school. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Boys Latin.
Yeah. We don't have a Boys Latin where I'm at, or an Eagle Academy where I'm at. And as a matter of fact, we had a couple of schools like that got attacked by the system and got shut down. Shut down, right? Because
they were talking about that yesterday.
So we have a movement in Philadelphia about Black-led charter schools always being targeted, and a lot of them, a majority of them, have been shut down or are trying to be shut down. And in a perfect world, education for Black people would look like education ran by Black people, right? Well, the right Black people. And it is as impossible as that seems, or as impossible as systems make it. I think that with the right people in place, it's a movement that we can push toward making happen. Sharif El-Mekki Center for Black Educator Development. I plug it every chance I get because I am a firm believer in it. We have 10 young men right now at Boys Latin who are going through a fellowship and it is a fellowship, but it's like a pipeline, an internship into being a Black educator, and it's supported by Sharif's organization as well as Drexel University in partnership with Boys Latin. We need to, be doing more of that so that the kids, so that future generations of our kids and parents are not in this same cycle, this 20-year fight, to have an option for quality education for Black people, for Black kids.
That's so helpful. Tell everybody.
You know what, Chris?
Go ahead.
Let me just say one more thing, right? She's in a great spot at Boys Latin, but I'm a plug in Philly because you see who our board president is, and you see what our board president is about, and it's definitely about educating our children in our neighborhood. So I'm gonna say, if you don't have it, find somebody who's going to be above it in that building, who's setting it in the right direction. Yeah, I want to say that because I got to plug mine too, Elaine. I got to shout out.
We done plug KIP Philly. We done plug Boys Latin. We plugged the Center for Black Educator Development. I think we should keep plugging too. We should plug Naomi Shelton taking over the Charter School Collaborative, which is a organization that represents single site charters, mom and pop charters of color, which oftentimes don't get the love that big chains get. Oftentimes, freedom schools. Okay, so there's another plug that we should know about. And people, if you're listening, it's Renee Brown says plug me. Okay, Renee, put it in the comments what we should be plugging for you. But we should also plug our network of activists. Like, earlier when I name checked people like Visha Hawkins and others, it's because you all are showing up and your names are known to me now in a network that I can depend on. If I came to you and said, listen, I got an issue, whatever, we got each other's back. Right. So plug it all. Like, let's plug it all. Tell people when they can find your podcast, by the way, date, times, and how they find you.
Our podcast is on Mondays, the first Mondays of the month. He wants to say hello. I got a kid. Get in the room, my baby. Sorry. First Mondays, 3 woke aunties.
First Monday of the month, every month.
Purist, Raymond, once a month.
Okay.
Or maybe more. We'll see.
We're working on that.
Yeah. And for people watching, if you Google 8 Black Hands on Facebook, you'll find the 8 Black Hands stream. And within the stream, we'll always have the 3 Woke Aunties podcast in that stream if you can't find them anywhere else. And by the way, if you need to find us just in general, any of the guests ever on my show, just contact me, send me email at citizen@hey.com, hey.com, and I can put you in touch with people. I just want to say, I appreciate you all. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate it specifically because I know it's the thing that has worked in my own life is just to have interested, caring, knowledgeable people with resources to be able to demystify something for me. Like if I'm having a problem, I don't need anything other than someone to demystify it for me and be like, that's not really a problem. Let me tell you how that works. I will say the reason I do this show and the reason that I lead Bright Beam and the reason that I am an activist, period, was there was a point in time where I had no answers and felt like I could do nothing. Yes. Right. And that was when my oldest son is now 30. He's probably watching here or is probably trolling me in the comments like he likes to do. But that was 30 years ago when I first was looking at a baby thinking, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do about this situation. Not feeling like I had a lot to give, not feeling like I had done well in school myself. So when it came to school time, I was super suspicious of everything from day one, from kindergarten on. And the system gave me reasons to not be so suspicious. And it gave me reasons to support my suspicion, both. But through that entire time, I asked a lot of questions of people that I felt were smart and trustworthy. And they would always say things to me like, Chris, like, just, it was almost like people were providing you with a secret blueprint. Like, when they do this, then you do that. Or if they say this, then this means that, whatever. And I sucked that up. I just absorbed all that because I was like, oh, yeah, this is a game, isn't it? This is kind of like a game. And I'm here to win. So 3 Woke Aunties. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all. Keep doing it. And you should tell people who the third auntie is who's not here today so that people know. Who's the third auntie?
Her name is Renee Brown. Okay. And she's on a board and she's a Republican.
What? And see, y'all didn't tell me that ripple. I didn't know that. That's Raymond's doing.
And she's proud of her. She's proud of her.
We don't hold it against her.
We just say that because it's just funny because she brings the smoke and we don't agree on anything, but we do agree on educating our Black kids in this system out here that's not doing such a good job. Okay, that's the one thing we do agree on.
I love this premise so much because Black people come in a lot of different flavors. But if you can just say, like, the bottom line, how are the children? That cuts through all the who did you vote for and where do you live and all that stuff, because we all have to account for and answer for the fact that the answer to that question right now is not so well.
Not so well.
Not so well.
A Christian, a Muslim, and a Republican. That's who we are.
All right. Now I got to keep.
But at the end of the day, we're all mothers. We're all parents. Yeah. Black parents, right?
All right, y'all. Well, I appreciate you so much. Enjoyed having you on the show today. Please come back again, and let's keep updating on where we go with this. I think we have a movement to start, a new movement that we haven't started.
Wait. We are starting the movement, Chris.
Okay, well then I'm with you.
The movement has started.
The movement has started. All right. Hopefully the revolution will be literate. And let's keep pushing it together. And liberated. All right. Well, listen, if it's about education and it's not making you more liberated,